And wilt ye take this woman for to be your wedded wife? Strike me, will I what? Take her, Doreen. He stands there asking me, as if he thought perhaps I'd rather not. Take her? He seems to think her kind was got like cigarette cards for the arson still. I does me stunt on this ear itchin' rot, and speaks me piece. Right-o, I says. I will. I will, I says, and though a joyful shout came from me burstin' heart, I know it did, me voice got sort of mangled comin' out, and makes me whisper like a frightened kid. I will, I squeaks, and I'd give a quid to add it on the quite without this fuss, and all the starin' crowd that ma had bid to see this solemn hitchin' up of us. For richer, for poor, so he bleats, in sickness and in health. And there I stands, and I dunno, off the chatter I repeats, nor what the 'ell to do with my two hands, but he don't hurry puttin' on our brands, this white-haired pilot bloke, but gives it lip, dressed in his little shirt with frills and bands, in sickness and in, I got the pip. And once I miss me turn, and Ginger Mick, who's my best man, he ups and beefs it out. I will, he owls, and fetches me a kick. Your turn to chin, he tips with a shout, and there I'm standing like a gawky lout. Oh, spare me, but I seem to be all hands, and wonder what he's going to crook about, with half a mind to crack him where he stands. Oh, lummy, but old Ginger was a trick. Got up regardless for the solemn rite. He awks the bunnies when he toils, does Mick, and twice I saw him feelin' for a light, to start a fag and trembles lest he might. Though force a habit like, he's nervous too. That's plain for orders to air to bluff and skite, and just as keen as me to see it through. But struth the women, how they love this frill, for Auntie Liz and Ma, of course, was there, and Ma's two uncles, wives, and cousin Lil, and half a dozen more to grin and stare. I couldn't make me hands fit anywhere. I felt like I was up before the beak, but my Doreen, she never turns a air, nor misses once when it turns to speak. To be your wedded wife, oh, take a pull. What in the hell he thinks I come there for? And so he drolls and drones until I'm full, and wants to do a duck clean out the door. And yet for all his highfalutin jaw, old Snowy was a real good meanin' bloke. If it wasn't for the oly look he wore, you'd think he pawed it on just for a joke. And when at last he shuts his little book, I heaves a sigh that nearly bust me vest. But heavens, now here's mother's going crook, and sobbing awful on me manly chest. I wish he'd give him them waterworks a rest. My little girl, she howls, oh, treat her well. She's young, too young to leave her mother's nest. All right, old chook, I nearly says, oh, well. And then we has beanos up at Ma's, a slap-up feed with wine and two big geese. Doreen sits next to me, her eyes like stars. Oh, how I wish their blessed yap would cease. The parson bloke, he speaks a little piece that makes me blush and hang me silly head. He says he hopes our lovin' will increase. I likes that pilot for things he said. He says Doreen and me is in a boat, and sailin' on matrimonial sea. He says how he hopes we'll allus float in peace and joy, from storm and danger free. Then mother gets to weepin' in her tea, and Auntie Liz sobs like a winded colt, and cousin Lil comes round and kisses me, until I feel I have to do a bolt. Then Ginger gets up and makes a speech. He'd had a couple, but he wasn't a shick. My cobber ear, he says, has copped a peach of all the barra lead she isn't the pick. I hope she won't forget his pals too quick, and was his friends in olden days, because I'm trustin' later on, says Ginger Mick, to celebrate the christening. Holy wars! At last Doreen and me, we gets away, and leaves him doing nothing to the scran. We're honeymoonin' down beside the bay. I gives $50 to the man what drives the cab, and like two kids we ran to catch the train. I strike, I could have flown. We gets the carriage right again the van. She whistles, jolts, and starts, and we're alone. Doreen and me, my precious bit of fluff, me own true wedded wife, and we're alone. She seems so frail, and me so big and rough. I don't know what this feelin' is that's grown inside me ear that makes me feel I own a thing so tender like I fear to squeeze. Too hard for fear she'll break. Then with a groan I start to hear a Coot call, "Tickets, please." You could have outed me right on the spot. I was so rattled that porter spoke, for struth them tickets I had fair forgot, but he just laughs and takes it for a joke.